The untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing games are missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, back again. It's been about 6 days since the last live, so it's good to be here. It's good to be seen here on camera, going live again. I haven't been gone live since before fight week started, so I think it was last Monday. I'm gonna say it was like last Monday. Yeah, it's actually been a week. So good to be here. This is in fact the aftermath of Canelo versus Berlanga. I'm putting the final cherry on top of this coverage here, and then we're gonna pivot into like Munguia and his fight this week and Joshua Dubois. So yeah, still a busy week ahead for boxing, and yeah, I wanted to talk about not just Canelo, but Caleb Plant, Stephen Fulton, all those guys in the card. So definitely, if you're here watching me live, feel free to comment. If you're watching on the playback, I still would appreciate you commenting, and definitely smash that like button, because that helps YouTube, let YouTube know that you guys are really messing with True School Sports, that you guys fuck with True School Sports. So hit that like button, man, and we're gonna have some great boxing talk. But before we get into the boxing talk, let me go ahead and get us some comments. Shout out to my guy, Making the Difference. He says, "I'm proud of Berlanga, orgullo de Berlanga," and yeah, Edgar Berlanga. We'll get into him, but like he had such low expectations that surviving is damn near considered a win, right? So yeah, he did what he could with the tools he had. We all knew it wasn't enough. We knew that he didn't have the skills to overcome the galaxy of experience that Canelo has more than him. So he did what he could. Wasn't enough. We'll talk about him later on. Shout out to my guy Landslide. He says, "Yo, much love, my guy, and great coverage of the fight, BT." And thank you, man. I'm happy that you guys enjoy my coverage. It's definitely reflected in like the growth of the channel, because just in the last 2 days I've gotten like 700 subscribers. So I'll be at 81,000 soon. This is also my first live as a 80,000 subscriber channel. So I'm really happy. I'm really starting to taste that 100,000 subscribers milestone. It ain't too far away. So really happy about that. But but without any further ado, let's get into the talking points. If you guys chime in after I start getting into my points, I'll get back to your comments. But let's get into these talking points, man, because there's a lot of things to run through here on True School Sports, right? Now, Canelo, he underperformed in the fight, as far as like what was expected of him, because what was expected of Canelo was to, knock out Berlanga. Now, it wasn't a close fight. He dominated the fight, but Canelo continued a reoccurring theme, a reoccurring trend in these recent fights. Like John Ryder, he dropped him, couldn't stop him. Jaime Munguia dropped him early, couldn't stop him. And then it does it again with Edgar Berlanga. He drops him, and he couldn't stop him. So it's a two-edged sword, because there's such expectations placed on Canelo Alvarez because of all he's accomplished in boxing. So people are expecting him to get knockouts. And he's doing it, in this case against Munguia and Berlanga's last two fights. On paper, these guys are undefeated young fighters, and he's beating them quite easily. So I think when history does look back on the wins against Berlanga, the wins against Munguia, it will remember him fondly, just because people are gonna look at it on paper. Munguia was like 40-0, Berlanga was like 22-0 with like 17 knockouts. So their records look really good. He beat them with no problems at all. And yeah, he clearly isn't the Canelo from 2021 anymore. He's not the guy that knocked out Amir Khan or James Kirkland. He's not that guy anymore. But he's still a very good fighter. I still think, he's a very difficult fighter to beat at 168. It's just unfortunate because, he's got the sanctioning bodies in the palm of his hand. So they're not gonna they were never gonna enforce Benavidez to fight him. He was never gonna fight him. Morel, Benavidez and Morel are the only two guys that I would really give a legitimate chance to beating at 168. Those guys pretty much got weighted out by Canelo. They got their hand got forced, and now they're both light heavyweights. So really, Canelo could fight, the Pachecos and the Mbillis, and we'll get into that. But it's really his weight class for as long as he wants it to be his weight class, unless he gets old overnight. So I'll leave it at that. The question now becomes for Canelo, if he's not fighting David Benavidez, right, which we know he's not. We know that Samson Lukowicz even came out in my interview and said that, hey, we're not chasing this guy around no more. We're going to go try to create our own legacy. So if he's not going to fight Benavidez, right, And if he's not gonna, follow through and giving people the Bivol rematch, what the hell is left for Canelo Alvarez in his career? Like as far as meaningful fights. I was listening to a little bit of Paulie Malignaggi in Pro Box before I got on this live, and he brought up some very intriguing points. He said, Canelo Alvarez goes around and he says that he loves boxing, but he doesn't agree with him because he feels like if he truly loved boxing the way he proclaims to, he would still be out here challenging the best fighters in the world, and clearly he's not doing that. So it's the retirement tour. You look at the fights that are presently available for him at 168. He can fight Diego Pacheco, which I think, believe it or not, I still think Diego Pacheco is a fight he may take because they got history from sparring each other. Pacheco is part of his camp. He's the number one contender in the WBO. He's got a very similar record on paper to Edgar Berlanga. He's Mexican American, so that's obviously going to help. If they can do the fight on the West Coast, that helps sell the fight as well. You got him. You got Eric Bazinian. If Eric Bazinian is able to be successful against Jaime Munguia this week and upset him, all of a sudden you got Eric Bazinian maybe in a Canelo fight. Christian and Billy, all action TV fighter, fun guy to watch. Maybe he wanted to get in the fight. Those aren't fights that I think anybody's really clamoring for, but those are the fights that are available. So as many of you guys know, I asked Canelo what I thought was a very important question this week, a question I've never heard anybody asking me. And shame on the media. Shame on like all the media that's been covering him over the years. This is my first Canelo fight, and it took all these years of me finally getting credentialed to a Canelo fight for someone to ask Canelo the question of, hey, you said you'd fight Beterbiev, but would you go ahead and fight Beterbiev, right? Because that's a fair question. That's not even hating on Canelo Alvarez. That's a fair question. If you're saying you're gonna fight one guy if he becomes undisputed, would you fight the other guy if he becomes undisputed? And really and truthfully, Canelo Alvarez heard the question very clearly. I was yelling at him because I had to, because his PR lady, who looked at me like 4 times dead in my eye, would not give me the microphone during the press conference. So for those of you who don't know, for the media, when you go to the post-fight pressers, if you want to ask a question, you got to raise your hand and they give you the microphone. I had my hand up the entire press conference. This lady would not give me the microphone. So then but thankfully, God bless Canelo, and this is why I give him his respect. He was a professional. He still answered like 4 or 5 questions even after the press conference was done. And yeah, he as Landslide said, he pretty much shrugged the question off. Why? Because I'll tell you guys like this. Riddick Bowe told me a long time ago when I was it 2016? So how old was I? When I was 21. When I was 21 and I was going to interview Riddick Bowe, making my bones in boxing media, interviewing Riddick Bowe and Holyfield down at the Heavyweight Factory. He told me many years ago, he said, Brendan, one thing about boxing is we all as fighters know who we can beat and who we can't beat. And, boxing's a small world. One thing about Beterbiev is I'm sure there's been guys in his camp that have sparred him and sparred Canelo. And I'm sure Canelo, no matter how smart he is as a fighter and a person, he's asked people, hey, how good is Beterbiev? Is what they say about him true? And I guarantee you, because the story is consistent with anybody who sparred him, been in camp with him, been in the ring with him, they all say the same thing. So if they all say the same thing, it can't be a lie, right? So he knows he don't want that. He knows he don't want them problems, because the money ain't gonna be what it would be to fight some of these other guys. He could beat easier, and he's gonna probably take a beating, So that's why he ain't fighting Beterbiev or giving it much thought. So yeah, there's not a whole lot for him left to do. By the way, guys, I'm seeing on my screen that the picture is a little choppy. I know you guys can hear me, but is the picture blurry? Because I don't like blurry pictures. Hold on 1 second, guys. Give me 1 second. I don't like. All right, I'm back. So picture should be better now, and I think it is. So yeah. Anyway, it ain't gonna be choppy no more. So that's good. But yeah, there's not really I think Canelo has reached that rare fighter in his career where it's like, you know what? If he's not gonna fight these young killers, like the real young killers, not these guys that are young on paper that we know aren't really like killers. I'm talking about the guys like Benavidez and guys like that. he's reached that part of his career where it's like, okay, well, you've done everything there is to do. You've been undisputed. You won titles in multiple weight classes, and for all intents and purposes, I got to give him his due. Like, he's the only fighter in boxing that could fight an Edgar Berlanga type of opponent in his weight class and put 20,000 plus asses in the seats. There's something to be said about that. So, I guess I'll just enjoy the rest of his career for what it is. We've already talked about him fighting the Bivol rematch. He didn't want it. He said he does now. I still don't believe him. He said he wanted Benavidez. I definitely don't believe him about that. That ship has sailed. So as far as what his next option could be, and honestly, I'll say it like this. I really think that for Canelo, the only commercially realistic option for him, as far as like doing the biggest event while making the most money, while it being somewhat of a legacy fight, because just because of the name, it's got to be Terrence Crawford. It has to be, because Terrence Crawford. I think Terrence Crawford versus Canelo, or Canelo versus Terrence Crawford, I think it's the biggest fight that can be made in boxing. I think it's the biggest event in North America that can be made in boxing, because of obviously who Canelo is, star power wise, what he can do on his own, fighting the Edgar Berlangas of the world, and then obviously Terrence Crawford just did about, what was it, 17,000 himself fighting Madrimov in LA. Obviously they stacked the card, it had Eminem, so it wasn't just solely on his star power, but he beat Spence in a very unforgettable performance in a big fight. So he's graduated to another level of stardom. In fact, Terrence Crawford was at I think it was the Sphere or somewhere, and he met Rihanna. And so like he's over here rubbing elbows with Rihanna, being all giggly like he's a teenage boy with Rihanna. So he's clearly in a different class of popularity now than he was 2 or 3 fights ago. So I do think they're gonna fight, and I'll be honest with you guys, if I would say they definitely fight in 2025. I know there's been a lot of back and forth about, Turkey said this about Canelo and Canelo said this about Turkey. Look, one thing about it is this: when that much money is available and that much money can be made, the conflicting sides will let bygones be bygones. And I do think in 2025 we will see Terrence Crawford versus Canelo, because when you look at 168, there's nobody there. I mean, like if you fight in Billy, you fight Pacheco, you fight Eric Bazzini and these kind of guys, it's basically the same thing as fighting Edgar Berlanga, if not worse in some cases from a commercial standpoint. He's and then if you ask him to fight the winner better be a Bivol, those are both tough fights. He already lost to one of the guys, and the other guy that is probably going to win, it would probably put the biggest beating he's ever taken in his life. So why do that for less money? Canelo Alvarez, for better or for worse, he's played the boxing game perfect. He knows when to pick certain guys, and the thing is, Terrence Crawford is a smaller guy from weight classes down below. He's a name. He's on the pound for pound list, and he'd make the most money. So when you can start looking at the boxes, that event, that fight as a fight and what it means for his career, and as an event, it ticks a lot of boxes. The only road barrier I feel in that particular fight would be, okay, could the dollars make sense? Could Turkey, Eddie Hearn, and the fine folks at PBC, could they all meet in the middle ground and make the fight make sense, make the dollars make sense? That's really what it comes down to. And I think it will. And I would expect in 2025 that not only do they make the dollars make sense, I would say that PBC and Riyadh season and Al Heyman in Turkey, I bet you that they do a co-promotion pay-per-view, because that's how big and that's how big I think that fight is, and how much it'll move the needle, not just in this country, but the boxing world abroad. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that. So what's good, guys? Shout out to everybody here. It's your boy BT, the untouchable True School Sports. Make sure you guys smash that like button, subscribe if you're new. We're at 80,000 subscribers now. Going to be at 81 soon, so I'm really happy about that. Definitely super chat. We're here. Yes, sir. Daniel Rubin, Pro Box. Shout out to Pro Box. He says, the lives are back. BT is the best reporter in the game. I 1,000% agree with all that. So thank you. Appreciate it, champ. Landslide says, Canelo still can't finish anything since Plant. SMH, you called it going 12. Yeah. What's funny was I told anybody who would listen in the media room when everyone was saying, like literally in the media room, people were having debates about not what round Berlanga will get stopped in, what punch he would get knocked out with. There was nobody picking Berlanga. There was nobody giving him a chance. Everyone picked up a knockout, and I said, guys, you don't know what you're watching. You have zero idea. You guys think you know what you're watching, but you really don't. Canelo Alvarez is a fantastic fighter, but he's not a finisher like that no more. And he fights in spurts, and he don't put his punches together. And he's never been like a big one punch guy unless he's fighting like Amir Khan. So Edgar's gonna be just big enough, just young enough, just strong enough to keep him at bay with that power. And Canelo's not gonna put enough punches together to knock him out. And I can't even think of one media member out of the 100 something reporters I talked to during the week that picked um, Canelo by decision. It was all Canelo by knockout and that stuff. So yeah, thank you. Ricky Luna says, Brendan, congratulations on 80,000 subscribers. Thank you, man. And God willing, we'll get to 90,000 real quickly and then 100,000 real quickly. So, yeah, it's a blessing, man. It's been a long journey, and I'm grateful every day. Do you think he takes Benavidez on the way out just for the check? I think he'd be more prone to fighting Benavidez now, Canelo, only because he's got Benavidez in a very disadvantageous position. Like, he moved up to light heavyweight to go fight, chase those guys up there. If Canelo and his team pass that paperwork to Benavidez, now he's gonna have to drain himself, and I think it bumps up Canelo's chances to win, and he knows that, so that's why they're gonna go ahead and I would consider that to be a possibility. So, yep. And you know what? My next talking point is this, and this talking point right here, it may break some hearts, but I wanna really get clear on this, because there's people that watch this channel and they only watch me when I talk about certain fighters. So some people may only watch me when I talk about Canelo. Some people may only watch me when I talk about Inoue. Some people may only watch me when I talk about Terrence Crawford. And the ones that only watch me when I talk about Canelo, they still think this is 2021. They still think I'm on a crusade for Demetrius Andrade, trying to get him the Canelo fight, and that I still hate Canelo. And really and truthfully, I haven't been a Canelo hater for like 2 years. I haven't disliked Canelo for 2 years. And quite honestly, if I could be honest for a second, when you cover a fighter, when you actually go to their fights and you cover them up close, it gives you a different impression on them, right? And so, in dealing with Canelo Alvarez and the little minimal interactions I got this week, I can honestly say this about him. Canelo Alvarez, in my almost 10 years covering boxing, he is one of the most professional fighters I've ever been around. And when I say professional, what I mean is, you get some of these guys in boxing that they reach a certain level and they feel they're too good to do certain things. They're above certain things. They're above, answering extra questions for the media. They're above fulfilling their media obligations. They're above, just being a hospitable person. And Canelo Alvarez, I can definitely say he went above and beyond to do what he needed to get done this week in the ring and outside the ring. And honestly, just seeing him up close and how he goes about his business, it's really an eye opener as to why he is where he's at. So I give him his respect. Also, too, like, obviously, I think I'll be honest here. Like, when he got absolutely, outclassed and we always say on True School Sport, we say exposed by Dimitri Bivol. That obviously helped too, because it really humbled the Canelo fans and really brought people back to reality as to how good he is. He's a fantastic fighter, but he's not going to go to cruiserweight, and people were talking about him fighting Usyk, so that kind of helps too. But just I would say seeing him how he goes about his business, him losing to Bivol 2 years ago, and then really and truthfully like watching other fighters in boxing how they go about their business. Like, look at Terrence Crawford, right? And mind you, I'm a huge Terrence Crawford fan. Terrence Crawford has been one of my favorite fighters in boxing for the better part of now 10 years. I've been a Terrence Crawford fan since 2014, longer than most of you guys even know who he is, right? When I used to write articles about Terrence, when I used to write articles before I even had a YouTube channel, there's an article that I wrote like 9 years ago about Terrence Crawford being pound number one, right? So I've always thought highly of Terrence, but seeing how Terrence has moved since the Errol Spence fight has really disheartened me and turned me off about Terrence. And honestly, it may come as a surprise to many people, but if them two fight, if Terrence and Canelo fight, I'm probably gonna root for Canelo, because I really don't like how Terrence has moved since the damn Errol Spence fight. He don't want to fight. He don't want to fight Tim Tszyu. He don't want to fight Virgil. He don't want to fight Jerron Ennis. He don't want to fight nobody that's in and around his way. He just wants the big cash out fight. And I understand it, but it's really kind of turned me off of him. So yeah, how he goes about his business. other fighters in boxing, I mean, like you get certain guys like I don't want to put nobody down, but like you get just watching certain guys who get all this hype, all this praise, and they just they're not as professional as Canelo. Canelo's a professional, and that's what I respect about him. You know, obviously he got his flaws. Like you can nitpick any fighter's career, which I've done. I mean, I've done 40-minute videos nitpicking Canelo Alvarez's career 4 years ago. He won his first title against Matthew Hatton and cherry picked him. But you can do that for anybody. Every fighter has gray areas and things in their career. So yeah, to be honest, like the reality is this, and this is just being unbiased. This is my second time going to a Canelo Alvarez fight. The first one was the Saunders fight in Texas 3 years ago. The reality is this: when you talk about boxing as a mainstream sport, visibility wise, there's not really many fighters moving the needle outside of the hardcore boxing community, and the hardcore boxing community is minuscule in comparison to the general sports fan population. So the guys that are really sticking their flags in the ground and moving the needle outside of hardcore boxing fans is Canelo, is Anthony Joshua, is Gervonta Davis, is Naya Inoue, and you guys can add whoever you want, but like those are the ones that are really making sure that this sport is continuing to thrive. And so for that, I gotta respect them. And think about it. This event, now I'm not talking about the fight itself, but the event, Canelo versus Berlanga, as a commercial success, they were up against it. They had the UFC literally right down the street at the Sphere, which in my opinion is the best venue in Las Vegas. I love the Sphere. And not only was the event a massive success, but the event definitely outdid the UFC. They sold over 20,000 tickets, sold it out to capacity. It was a lively crowd. And you can only do that. You can only be able to outdraw the UFC on a big fight night like that if you yourself are a box office superstar, and Canelo Alvarez is that. So look, man, I spent a lot of time on this channel over the years downing the guy because I wanted him to fight a certain guy, Demetrius Andrade, who, by the way, Andrade, unfortunately, he moved a certain way in his career and made some really unintelligent decisions, and that's why he's at where he's at now, and had to take a fight that was unfavorable to him against Benavidez, and he didn't fulfill his potential. But I want to make this very clear, and I'm going to clip this. I'm going to clip this little segment. I'm not a Canelo hater anymore. So anybody who comes here saying I'm a Canelo hater or tries to think it's 2021, I'm just going to say I don't hate the guy anymore. And honestly, too, like I said, man, the only thing I will say is, now if you start saying like he's better than Salvador Sanchez, then he's the best Mexican fighter ever. That's where I'm going to stop you, and I'm going to be like, yo, Canelo Alvarez is not. He's great, but he ain't that great. Let's pump the brakes. Let's not do that. You start saying he's better than certain guys from Mexico, then I'm gonna have a problem. But other than that, he's okay with me, and I will leave it at that. So yeah, let's get to some comments, man. We got people in the building. 3070. Make sure you smash that like button. We got our first super chat from the pound for pound #1 Canelo Alvarez fan that I know, my man Pete. I don't think Pete came to this fight because he was out there in Texas. But normally, I mean, the whole time I've known him, he's been at like damn near every Canelo fight. So shout out to Pete with the $20 super chat. He says, "The Untouchable." Yes, shout out to you, Pete. Good to see you. Hope all is well. Heads up to you, Pete. And I keep forgetting to tell you and Felipe this in the group chat we have. I did apply for the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight in Texas for November. If I do get in, I will be seeing you guys soon in Texas, so just keep that in mind. Hopefully I get accepted so I can go to Texas, because it's been now 2 years since I've been to Texas, and I love Texas. So yes, sir. Shout out to Pops in the building. He says, "Thank you to all the subscribers for all the support, reaching 8,000 subscribers and counting." Yes, sir. BT, you're showing your growth. Thank you, man. I'm doing my thing. Canelo versus Bivol Beterbiev winner is way bigger than Benavidez fight. I think Canelo will challenge himself again for 175 undisputed. That'd be amazing. I would love to see, whether it's Bivol or Beterbiev. I think those are both really intriguing fights. Obviously, Bivol wanted to fight Canelo at 168 for his title, but Canelo didn't want that because obviously he didn't like his chances in that scenario. So that's why he went in another direction and started fighting these easier guys. But I honestly think, man, if Beterbiev would have come out on top in that fight and Canelo would have fight Beterbiev, oh my God. I mean, at that point, I don't even care if he wins or he loses. At that point, I would have to actually bump Canelo up a spot on like the all-time great Mexican fighters just for taking the fight, because that's the level of seriousness that you got to treat Artur Beterbiev when you take a fight with him. Like, it's a dangerous fight. He can make more money doing other fights, and so that would be a risk on his end, you know. Is Canelo's power low key fading? No stoppage at 2021. I think his age is permanently showing now. Yeah, I think it's the age. I think because it takes him a little bit more time to get warmed up. He's not a combination puncher anymore. But I'll be honest with you, if I could be 1,000% honest with you guys, I think these last couple of fights with Canelo have just evened out and showed who he really was at 168. And I'm gonna tell you guys what I mean by that. When Canelo went on his undisputed run in 2021, all the guys that were champions, Plant, Saunders, Callum Smith, these are all guys that are not really that durable. Like, Billy Joe had never been stopped at that point, but Billy Joe's been hurt a couple times in his career and whatnot, and and at 168, Billy Joe had shown some real, like, if you watch the fight where won the title against that guy Sufi, whatever his name was, that wasn't the Billy Joe from 160. He wasn't operating at that level anymore as a 68 pounder. Caleb Plant, I love Caleb Plant. Love him, one of my favorite fighters in boxing. But again, even when he fought Jose Uzcategui in one of his finest hours, he had to grind that one out. Showed stamina issues. So I just think I think the run that the guys that were champion at that time, it exaggerated maybe like his knockout power, and I feel like now that he's fighting younger guys who are a little bit more durable, that's why they're going the distance. I still think he's a good puncher. He's not the puncher that everybody thinks. I gotta say, Canelo's top Mexican base achievement. Sanchez died too young. No, he's not. It's even debatable if Canelo is a top 3 Mexican fighter of all time, and that's not hate. I mean, Salvador Sanchez resume blows Canelo's out the water. Even with him dying young, he still had like 40 something fights. He knocked out Azumah Nelson, Hall of Famer, arguably the greatest African fighter of all time. Knocked out Wilfredo Gomez, Hall of Famer, arguably the greatest Puerto Rican fighter of all time. Knocked out Juan Laporte. Knocked out who else am I missing? He's got like 3 or 4 knockouts against Hall of Famers. He's knocked out 3 or 4 Hall of Famers. There's nobody on Canelo's entire resume who he's ever knocked out who you can say is Hall of Famer. So, in terms of the guys he beat, the fashion he beat them in and the skills he flashed, to me, it's a no-brainer. Salvador Sanchez is better than Canelo, and he's better than any Mexican fighter that ever lived. I know a lot of people say Chavez. I actually might. That's a tough one. I like Chavez. I don't know. There's a couple guys I would still, even after Salvador, that I would consider putting ahead of Canelo, but nah, I don't agree with that. People who say, "Oh, Salvador died too young, and that's why he's not the best Mexican fighter ever." When I hear that lets me know that you probably didn't study his career as deep as you think, and I would really advise you to go study it some more and really understand the magnitude of those guys that he knocked out and dominated. You know what I'm saying? So that's just my opinion, but yeah. But anyway, I want to switch gears now into my next talking point. We're going to talk about Edgar Berlanga because there is quite a lot to talk about. Edgar got a moral victory, and I'll be honest. I like Edgar, and today I was watching some of the reaction that he had after the fight when he was walking back to the locker room, and really and truthfully, I think he was a little too happy for my liking. He was a little too happy for my liking to go 12 rounds, and the thing about Edgar is, I want to pose this question to you guys, the chat, is can Edgar become one of the elites at 168? Because I'll be honest, right now, even with him fighting Canelo, I still don't view him as an elite fighter at 168. I think he's a fringe contender who can talk himself into a fight and is Puerto Rican, so they were able to do the whole Mexican Puerto Rico dynamic. But I don't view him as an elite fighter at 168 because really and truthfully, Edgar Berlanga never dominated the level he was at before Canelo. And my thing is now that the thoughts I have is like Now that he's getting a taste of this Canelo money, which is different, which is enough to make any man go content and not work as hard anymore. Is he going to be too happy to improve after a loss? Does he really have the drive to improve, to get better? Because think about it. When I watched this fight, and you know, some of the people in the media were trying to give Edgar this credit for making it 12 rounds, which I fully expected him to go 12 rounds, so I wasn't surprised what happened, but most people were. I don't care that he survived the 12 rounds. Where I have a problem with him getting all this credit is I don't think he really fought to win the fight. There was no time in that fight where I said, "Hey, look at Edgar Berlanga. He's trying to win. He's trying to be a threat to Canelo Alvarez." I didn't feel that way watching him fight. He fought slightly better and more aggressive than like Jermell Charlo, who set the bar so low. But he wasn't too far off of Jermell Charlo in my eyes. And when you look at Berlanga, he's 27 years old. So this is supposed to be like your prime years physically. And you get the biggest fight of your career, a chance to really like up your status in the boxing game and really become a superstar overnight. And you don't even come to win. It's okay to be outgunned. It's okay to not have the tools, you know, because sometimes boxing plays out. It's out that way where you're in a fight like that. But you can never accept not coming to win. And I'm sorry, like I'm just gonna be honest. Like I'll be 1,000% honest. I'm friends with a couple fighters in boxing. Like, you guys know I'm cool with Angelo Leo. You know, Adrian Granados is a guy I'm cool with. There's like 4 or 5 fighters I can name right now that never got half as big opportunity as Berlanga got to fight Canelo. They lost way smaller fights and in way smaller events than he got. And I'm telling you, these guys are crying themselves to death. It's like the worst thing that ever happens to them in their life. It's like you would have thought their children or one of their family members got killed, because that's how bad the pain was of them losing. So I'm not saying Edgar's not feeling down. He probably is, but I didn't really like at the press conference. He was a little down, but like I didn't sense that it really crushed his spirit. And the reason why that's important is because if it's not crushing your spirit and you're giving yourself all this credit for surviving because the bar was set so low for you, for expectation wise, like can you really go to that place? Like if you fight a Caleb Plant or if you fight a Cherry McCumbee, you know, guys don't have the name of the fan for Canelo. Can you really go to that place in camp and make the necessary improvements to become an elite fighter at 168, to become champion? And I'll be honest, I'm really skeptical about Edgar in that regard. So yeah, I mean, as far as what could be next for him, you got really good fights out there for him. You know, really good fights. Obviously, one of the fights that people want to see him in and are fully anticipating him being in is the Caleb Plant fight, and understandably so. They both fought Canelo. They both got big names. They had that little run-in earlier in the year, so that obviously helps. It would probably be one of the best build-ups in boxing if it does happen. But I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I'm looking at this camera. I'm gonna tell you guys a stone cold truth. That's a cool little fight, but I would like to see Edgar Berlanga fight Cherry McCumbee. I think Cherry McCumbee versus Edgar Berlanga is a better fight to make than Caleb Plant, in all honesty. Like, because Caleb Plant, let's just be real, Caleb Plant is like 2.5 to 3 levels better than Edgar Berlanga. He's a better boxer than him. You know, I'm not gonna say he's a bigger puncher than him because I don't believe that, but I think he's craftier to get into position to land his shots. Edgar could have all the power in the world, but if you don't have the intelligence and the ring craft to actually be in position to land the shots, then what good is power, right? So I don't think his power will be much of a factor if they fight. And I think Caleb Plant will school Edgar Berlanga if they fight. That's my honest assessment. That's my honest opinion. But McCumbee, I like that fight because McCumbee, he can be crafty at times, but you know, his gas tank ain't the best. His gas tank wouldn't let him down against Caleb Plant. I think Edgar will get his chances to land big shots against him, and I think that'll be a very entertaining fight. It's the kind of fight where if Edgar were to win, his stock would shoot through the roof because, as you saw, McCumbee wasn't known by most of the boxing public. He wasn't like highly regarded by a lot of people because they didn't know who he was, because most people ain't watching these pro box cards like that. But McCumbee brought the best out of Caleb Plant. And Caleb Plant now, his stock's in the roof because of McCumbee, because of the threat and the style that McCumbee brought to the table. Now it's done wonderful for Caleb Plant. And so for that, Keith Conley, Eddie Hearn, they're talking about bringing Edgar Berlanga to Puerto Rico to fight. Okay, what better way to entertain the Puerto Rican people than a big, shootout between two big punchers? McCombie, Berlanga, that's the ideal fight to make. Because I'll tell you guys like this: he fight Caleb Plant next, he gonna get absolutely schooled. Like, he may win more rounds than he did against Canelo, but it's not a competitive fight. He needs a lot of work. So I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. Before I get into Caleb Plant or any talk about him, let me go ahead and acknowledge a couple of super chats. We got my dad with the $10 super chat. Shout out to Pops. He says, "Here's something, BT. Catch you payday 2 days from now." All right, Pops. Thank you. Alec Powell says, "What it do? Didn't I say it would go 12 rounds? Canelo only knocks out the easiest blacks, Hispanics, and Canelo looks okay with them." You did say that. In fact, I remember that comment very well, Alec Powell. I was like, you made that comment. You said Canelo never knocks out Latino fighters. He only knocks out British fighters and European fighters. And at first, I don't like when people play the race card, but I said, you know what? Let me give some thought to that. And we went through his box rec, and he was proven correct. And that prediction held very true. And credit to you, Alec Powell, and thank you for the super chat. Yes, it's crazy. You said that, and it went ahead and it proved to be true. So, yeah, man, let me get some more comments. Shout out to everybody here. Make sure you smash that like button, subscribe. We got a good little audience here today, so make sure you guys keep giving your thoughts. I'll definitely get to as many comments as I can. Canelo kept saying he's like my son before, and after Canelo is going to take him under his wing now. That'd be nice. I would like I think Berlanga needs some guidance. Berlanga definitely needs to add a lot to his game, because I'm telling you, these guys, like, forget Plant. Let's just say he fights Christian and Billy, Pacheco. Like, there's not really a fight against a top contender at 168 where I could say, you know what, I would make Edgar Berlanga a comfortable favorite. Every fight, even like the guy that Munguia is fighting this week, Eric Bazinian, all these guys I think would have a chance to beat him. A big chance, like not no like punch. No, I'm talking about big chance, and I'm probably making it a favorite, like, because he just don't have that ring craft like that. MEZBX says, "Is it because he didn't cry on the camera or at the press conference? That means he was disappointed losing." Come on, B, stop insinuating. No, I'm not even talking about the press conference. Like, I'm talking more about, because I saw a video when he was walking back, I think, to the locker room after the fight, or he was walking to the press conference in the tunnel with his girl. And he just looked too happy, maybe he just held his emotions in, and he let it all out when and it was a man about it, and let it all out behind closed doors. But I'm just like, I don't know, man. I think Berlanga showed Canelo too much respect. He kept calling him a legend way too many times during the build to a fight, which I don't care if it's true or not. You don't do that. Like, I'll tell you right now. I'll tell you straight right now. You guys know, like, I want to see Angelo Leo fight Naya Inoue. If I ever hear Angelo say Naya Inoue is a legend 10 times at a press event, I'll get mad at him, and I'll say, yo, what are you doing? You're showing too much respect to Inoue, right? Yeah, to me, it didn't feel like it didn't seem like it hurt him enough, and that's my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't want to. I'm not trying to be judgmental. I'm just telling you guys what I think. Berlanga is too big for Plant. I don't agree with that at all. And if they fight, I think Berlanga will get schooled pretty bad. Edgar Berlanga, I hate to say it, but Edgar Berlanga, I think McCombie is just as big of a puncher as Berlanga. And if he's not quite as big of a puncher as Berlanga, in your guys' eyes, he's a smarter fighter than Berlanga. He's able to get to his position to land those big shots. Berlanga does not have the feet, the volume, the craft to land those kind of shots that Caleb Plant. If you guys go back and you really watch the McCombie fight, McCombie made Caleb Plant have to come to him because McCombie was feinting him. McCombie was able to feint him and break his rhythm. So Plant understood, okay, well, normally I'm the guy that feints, but I got to make an adjustment because this guy's crafty. This guy, had over 120 amateur fights and 28 fights in the pros, so he knows what he's doing in there. I think McCombie would stop Berlanga, to be honest with you, if straight up. Berlanga doesn't know how to fight on the inside. If Caleb tore up McCombie on the inside, he will do it exactly. And mind you, this is this would be what Caleb plants. Let's just say if he fought Edgar next, that'd be his third fight with Stephen Brendan Edwards, and Brendan Edwards is a good coach. I've been watching Caleb Plant since he was a prospect. He never fought on the inside like that, and that inside fighting is a direct byproduct of what Brendan Edwards is helping them teach in the gym. So, yeah, a lot of you guys, I don't know why y'all I don't know why you guys are so confident. What you need to do to beat Caleb Plant, Edgar Berlanga don't really got much of it. You know, it's beat Caleb Plant. You gotta be an intelligent counterpuncher. Edgar Berlanga is not a counterpuncher at all. That's not what he does. If he actually had above average counterpunching ability, he would have been able to really do something with Canelo. But that's just my assessment. Hopefully they fight. And you know what? That's a hell of a segue. That's a hell of a segue. Before I talk about Caleb Plant, let me go ahead and acknowledge my boy Hyro. You know, it's the first Hyro comment of the live. Shout out to one of my really good friends and one of the best subscribers I do have, one of the best viewers in the world, Hyro. He says, man, PBC knows how to run a big event in boxing in America. Eddie Hearn has never held a card in America like this. Talk that, spit that PBC propaganda, Hyro. Funny enough, Hyro, I won't say no names, but you know, I had some pretty good conversations with somebody that I know that works for PBC. And man, this guy I was talking to, he sounded just like you. It was crazy. And he actually works for PBC, so it was crazy. But nonetheless, let's talk about Caleb Plant because, in my opinion, you know, being there and seeing the fight, this fight, I had high expectations for this fight, and this fight actually exceeded my expectations. You know, Plant versus McCombie. Caleb Plant had the whole arena on fire. I mean, he had the Mexicans going crazy in the crowd. And I think this fight, more than any fight in his career, what it's done for Caleb Plant, whether he becomes champion again or not, it's cemented Caleb Plant as a must-see TV fighter. And if you can't win a world title again, I think the second best thing to be in boxing is a must-see TV fighter. Got a lot of speed, showed a lot of adjustment, showed a lot of heart, showed a lot of gumption in this fight. People didn't know McCombie. McCombie wasn't highly regarded, so, you know, people thought that Caleb Plant was going to just run through him and there wouldn't be no resistance put up. But no, this is a dangerous fight. And McCombie showed his amateur experience. He showed his punching power. And he's put himself in line back for some big fights at 168. If you look at the landscape of 168, you know, as far as what Caleb Plant, you know, what could be next for him, I mean, look, obviously he's closer to a Canelo fight now. But, I mean, look, apart from Canelo, you got guys like, you know, let me see. He's probably not going to fight anybody outside PBC. So, you know, maybe if Vladimir Shishkin wins for the IBF title, I could see Caleb Plant fighting the winner of Vladimir Shishkin, William Sco for the title. And if not that, you know, I'll say this. Caleb Plant, and this goes to my next talking point, Caleb Plant, I think, has put himself back in the running for Canelo Alvarez rematch. Why? Because Caleb Plant has his value as a fighter has actually increased tenfold since the Canelo Alvarez fight. Yeah, he lost Benavidez, but he put up a good fight in that fight. You know, in between, you know, he knocked out Anthony Durrell in a devastating fashion. And then now this fight right here, I mean, you guys should have seen. I wish some of you guys could have been in the arena to see just how on fire he had the building. Mexicans, Caleb Plant has a bit of a Mexican fan base now, so much so to the point where when he goes out to events like back in August, back last month at the Crawford fight, you know, Ahmed El Bialy tries to start some stuff with him, and you get like 6 Mexicans jumping Ahmed El Bialy for Caleb Plant. He is beloved by the Mexican boxing community. So I think that I don't think he's the first option for Canelo because Canelo kind of downplayed it at the press conference when it was asked to him about doing the Plant rematch. But if there's nothing else better for Canelo to do, I think that Caleb Plant rematch is right there in his back pocket because Caleb Plant became he's the interim champion now. I would fully anticipate that he winds up being elevated to the regular champion. And then what? If he's regular champion, that means he's basically Canelo's mandatory. And I think Canelo would actually oblige that mandatory because they've grown a liking to each other. Canelo's fans like Caleb Plant. And he's an exciting fighter. So yeah, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if when the smoke clears and Canelo if Canelo can't get a fight with Crawford done and doesn't have any interest in fighting the Beterbiev Bivol winner. Don't be surprised if he pulls this out of his ass, because I'm telling you, the politics make sense now, where Caleb Plant is in that position to become Canelo's mandatory challenger, and I think the rematch, from a commercial standpoint, would do more money, more views, more everything in the rematch than in the first fight, just because of, like, again, Caleb Plant's magnetic personality, fun fighter to watch, putting on good fights, really resonating with the core fan base of boxing, not just Mexican fans, but just boxing fans in general. So that's what I think about that. MEZBX says, I don't want to see Plant fight Canelo again. I have no interest in it at all. I know, but I'm just saying it's in his back pocket. It's in his back pocket. Don't be surprised. Mexicans have adopted Caleb Plant. Exactly. I know. When I was at the weigh-ins, when he came out for the weigh-ins, got a big ovation from the Mexican fans. When he got to the grand arrivals, got a big ovation from the Mexican fans. I'm telling you, you guys can choose to believe me or not believe me, but it's a thing right now. Nah, Plant loses again to Nello. They both won the fans that night. McCumbee and Plant both raised the top. Yeah, Terry McCumbee was 28-0 coming into this fight. Nobody really would know about him if you don't watch the Pro Box undercards. But I knew who he was because he fought. I'm gonna say he fought Chris Pearson on one of Angelo Leo's undercards on Pro Box, and I was there. I saw him in the dressing room and everything, and he's a good fighter. He's a good fighter, and I would love to see McCumbee versus Berlanga. That's actually, to me, in the entire division. If I could make one fight in the entire super middleweight division that I think would just be fun to watch, I would make McCumbee versus Berlanga. So yeah, their stocks both definitely went ahead and raised exponentially. Caleb was knocked out by Canelo, so there's no justification for a rematch. No, he was knocked out by Canelo, but he was knocked out and he was trying to win. Like he actually won rounds. He had moments. You can actually put together a Caleb Plant highlight reel from the fight, from punches he landed. Can't do that. You can't do that, Berlanga. So I wouldn't mind it. That's actually one of the few fights I wouldn't mind. I like Caleb Plant. I know a lot of people like Caleb Plant, but I know people aren't going to give him much of a chance. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I think it winds up. I think if he can't go ahead and make the Crawford fight, or the winner better be at Bivol, that's the fight that they're going to go ahead and make. Now it's funny. A lot of you, God, I'm going to talk about Stephen Fulton here in a second. But before I get into Fulton, I didn't even put any talking points for Lara versus Danny Garcia, because any of you guys who really pay attention to my videos, if you're one of those people that watch my channel on a video by video basis, you would know that I was shitting on Danny Garcia versus Lara back when I was in Japan last year, because last year when I was in Japan, that was when the news came out that they had just approved the fight at a 157 catch weight and all that stuff. And I was talking shit about this fight when I was literally walking the streets of Tokyo. So I didn't really care about that fight. To be honest with you, I was on my phone most of the time during that fight. But it went about how I thought it would go. I thought Lara and Danny would be very uneventful, a very low punch output fight between two old, inactive, aging counterpunchers. And I thought Danny Garcia would get stopped. I thought that was my prediction. Lara by stoppage. And I was right. So, I don't have much thoughts on it. Danny Garcia should have been retired. I think he's definitely retired now. Lara, he's a champion at middleweight, but he's not gonna fight nobody that's that good in the weight class. No, I'm holding out hope. Maybe he can fight Adames, but I don't really have, to be honest with you, I don't have any real deep thoughts about that fight. I'm gonna make a video about it tomorrow, only because you asked for it, and three other people have asked me about it. So I'm gonna do it just because the viewers are True School Sports. But really, I could give less of a crap about Danny Garcia versus Lara. Those are actually, believe it or not, two of my least favorite fighters on the PBC roster, because they're both guys that have either had a good performance years ago, like 7 to 8 to 10 years ago, and are still resting on their laurels of what they did 7 to 8 to 10 years ago. And they're both super inactive, and they both were getting overpaid when Al Haymon got the hedge fund money. And so, I've never really cared for either of them that much, if I'm just being honest. But, yeah. Lara is going to fight Errol Spence. Just what? That'd be crazy if he fought Spence. I don't know. I wouldn't even. I guess I'd care about it because I want to see how Spence look. But I just can't bring myself to actually care about Lara just because Lara, he is literally like the definition of a PBC fighter, like a guy that got overpaid early in his career, got real content, and to be honest with you, like when you look at Lara's career, he had some fights that were close against elite guys like Paul Williams and Canelo, but he didn't win those fights. Like the reality is, on paper, he did not win those fights. He didn't beat Brian Castano. He didn't beat Canelo. He didn't beat Paul Williams on paper. And it's crazy because I had people after the fight coming up to me, telling me that Lara put a boxing masterclass on Danny Garcia. He can't say shit. He's gonna go to the Hall of Fame. And I'm like, the Hall of what? Lara is many things. He's slick. He's elusive. He's a smart fighter. He's definitely old, but he's not anywhere close to a Hall of Famer. He's a good, very, very good fighter. Very good fighter. But nah, man, absolutely not. If you let Lara in the Hall of Fame, then anybody, you got to really like lower the bar. Like, he's not a Hall of Famer, but he's a very good fighter. I respect him. Commentators were really saying Danny Garcia was a Hall of Famer. People are still saying Danny Garcia is a Hall of Famer. I heard Paul Malignaggi today call Danny Garcia a Hall of Famer. I think Danny Garcia has a much stronger case for the Hall of Fame than a Lara. Just being honest. But Danny Garcia himself, I still don't think he's a Hall of Famer. I think Danny Garcia, like in baseball, there's a lot of guys that can't get into the Baseball Hall of Fame because it's very hard to get into the Baseball Hall of Fame. And there's guys that are like right there on the cusp. They say like these guys aren't in the Hall of Fame, but they're in the Hall of Very Good. I don't think Danny Garcia is in the Hall of Fame, but I think he's in the Hall of Very Good because his only two like great moments in boxing and big fights were Khan and Matisse. Those both came early in his career. After them fights, he never really recaptured that form. Like Lamont Peterson, a lot of people thought he lost that fight. Herrera, a lot of people thought he lost that fight. Keith Thurman, he lost that fight. Sean Porter lost that fight. Was basically a gatekeeper at welterweight for the better part of more than half a decade. And when he stepped up to Lara, basically took the knee. So, yeah, he's not a Hall of Famer. But I'll leave it at that. All right, so I want to pivot into, some Stephen Folan talk because you guys know, like, the weight class that I definitely enjoy talking about the most in boxing is the featherweight division because 2024 is and will continue to be the year of the featherweight division. And he's obviously a great addition to the weight class. And he had the second best fight on the card against Carlos Castro in his featherweight debut. He got dropped in the 5th round, and that obviously garnered a lot of criticism from people. People came to my video saying that Inoue took his soul, this, that, and the third. But I really do feel people are slightly jumping the gun on Stephen Folan because I thought from round 6 to 10, I thought the guy that was one of the top fighters in the world showed himself from those rounds. 6 to 10, I thought Steve Folan did a great job in the pocket. I thought, he was able to put his punches together and be the more accurate fighter. Obviously, he wasn't a big puncher at 122, and I don't think he'll be a big puncher at 26, but I will say he was punching Castro just hard enough to get his respect. And after the knockdown, Castro couldn't sustain his pressure on Folan. And one of the reasons why he couldn't sustain that pressure on Folan was because of the accuracy of Stephen Folan. And I think, those shots were just hard enough to win him these rounds and grind it out, So was it, the Stephen Folan that fought, like Danny Arman or Isaac Avila or Angelo Leo? No, it wasn't. But it was still a good performance. And mind you, that's not an easy fight to take your first fight at 126. Castro is a tall guy, can box, can be disciplined from the outside. And he's big for the weight class. So, credit to him for finding a way to win on a night that clearly was his best night. And it offers the question, can Stephen Folan become champion? And not just can Stephen Folan become champion again, but like, what's next for him? Now, I'll be honest with you. There's a whole lot of ways his career could play out because, right now as it stands, Stephen Folan is the number what? Let me pull it up. Stephen Folan is the number 2 contender in the WBA rankings, and that's the route that he's told me he's going. The WBA champion is obviously Nick Ball. So we'll start there. Can Stephen Fulton beat Nick Ball? Because in this fight, we saw moments in time where pressure was put on him, and he looked very much in trouble. Now, Castro isn't the pressure fighter that Nick Ball is. He's a pressure fighter at times, but he's not like a Nick Ball. Nick Ball is a fire hydrant with boxing gloves on. This guy don't stop. And the question will be in that fight is, can Stephen Fulton keep a guy, a strong, sturdy, hungry, champion like Ball off of him for 12 rounds? I would presume and I would assume that if they do fight as well, that Stephen Fulton would have to go to Saudi. So we all know the track record with American fighters in Saudi. Right now, as it stands, American fighters are 0-8 on Saudi Arabian soil, right? And Raymond Ford, a lot of people thought Raymond Ford beat Nick Ball, and he didn't get the decision. So he's gonna have to be better for that fight than he was in this fight. And I'll be honest with you, I think he'll beat Nick Ball. I really do. Nick Ball is a very good fighter at what he does. But Stephen Fulton, one thing about him, and this is why I said this in my post-fight review video about Stephen Fulton, is for all the talk of guys like Shakur and Devin and Haney and all these guys, like as far as like the Black American fighters in boxing, I love Stephen Fulton because he's not afraid to dog it out with you in the pocket. He can win in the pocket. He's done it many times to get some pretty good fighters. So I actually don't think it'll be much different. I think he'll find a way to beat Nick Ball because he's just a better fighter around the board. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes for him. If he don't fight Nick Ball, there's a couple other interesting options for him because he's the number 2 contender, but the number 1 contender is Bruce Shushu Carrington. And if he doesn't get the Ball fight next, I think that's a fight that should happen next. I think Stephen Fulton should fight Shushu Carrington next because Shushu Carrington has all these aspirations to fight Naya Inoue. Stephen Fulton obviously fought Naya Inoue in his biggest fight, so it's a barometer, a measuring stick he can use to see if he can beat a guy like that. And he's never, listen, Shushu, I love him, but he's never been in there anyway at that level of that caliber. And on top of that, when I've interviewed Shushu in the past, and when other reporters have interviewed Shushu in the past about fighting Inoue, he says things like, Stephen Fulton gave Inoue too much respect. Fulton doesn't have the arsenal I have. So my thing is this. The rankings are lining up. Why don't you show that in the ring? And then if you can show that in the ring, that would definitely increase your chances for an Inoue fight, So I like that fight. Louis Neri, another guy that's now a featherweight. He's someone that that was at the fight that made it a point to say that Stephen Fulton is easy work and he would beat him. I'm not so sure about that. I don't really believe in Neri as a featherweight. Neri, what made Neri so dangerous at 118 was his punching power. And he had power at 122. He dropped Inoue, but I don't think his power is going to be anything that Stephen Fulton can't handle, and I think he'll get outboxed. But that'd be a good fight as well. Right now Neri is number 3, so you got Carrington 1, Fulton 2, Neri 3, Mirko Quayle 4, and Otabek Komatov 5. I think you can literally mix and match any one of those 5 fighters in the rankings, and you would get an amazing fight in the division. So there's that, and then last but not least, when it comes to Stephen Fulton, you guys know, and I wanna take the time to really talk about this because I've been talking about it in my comment sections a lot. If Stephen Fulton is to become champion again, you guys already know what fight that has been talked about by boxing fans, what fight I've talked about, and that would be the Angelo Leo rematch. I think Angelo Leo versus Stephen Fulton in a potential unification title fight rematch is one of the best fights that could possibly be made in boxing. Why? Because first of all, their first fight was really good. A lot of people have revisionist history, and we have a lot of like Naya Inoue, Dick Riders in the world that like to, exaggerate what really happened in that fight. I've seen things like people say, "Oh, Stephen Fulton he beat Angelo Leo 120 to 108," which is not true. I think you could say 117, 111 at best. I scored a 116, 112, but it was a fight where Stephen Fulton had some nervy moments. And if you go back and you watch that fight, because I just watched that fight a couple days ago, or a couple weeks ago, actually, I should say. Stephen Fulton got hurt in the 4th round with a straight right hand, and I think since that fight's happened, I think Stephen Fulton, to be honest with you, he's still a very good fighter. I think Stephen Fulton's best boxing is behind him. I think Angelo Leo's best boxing is in front of him. I think Angelo Leo has gotten significantly better since that fight. And yeah, I just think there's a dispute to settle. You know, Stephen Fulton wants to become champion, or in this case, it'd be unified champion. Angelo Leo wants to avenge this loss because now, like even after the Venado fight, he can't. You know, I'm getting comments in my videos about people wanting that rematch, and I know for 1,000% fact because I talked about it on numerous occasions that he wants the rematch. I know he wants to make that right and avenge that loss, and I think he had a great chance to do that at 126. So yeah, there. I think out of everybody that fought on the card, Canelo, Berlanga, Plant, the guy that I think is the most interesting as far as what happens next is Stephen Fulton, because if he doesn't get the Nick Ball fight right away, if he literally fights anybody in the top 5 of the WBA, they're all good fights. Bruce Carrington, Luis Neri, Mirko Cuello, Otabek Komatov. These are all amazing fights. So it's real smoke at 126. It's different smoke at 126, and I look forward to seeing Stephen Fulton continue his quest to become champion. I think people are being too harsh. I think yeah, there's weaknesses, there's things he needs to be better at, but I didn't think it was a bad performance. And I think early on in that fight, you know, you saw some ring rust from Stephen Fulton, but once he got dropped and once he finally settled into his rhythm, he looked at times in that fight like the Stephen Fulton of old, and that's how I saw it. So yeah. Let me see what we got. Shout out to everybody here. I pretty much ran through all my talking points, so I'm just gonna read the comments. Roscoe Stark says, "I was so happy to see Plant get the TKO." Yeah, man, me too. You know, me too. Great fight, and his stock definitely rose up. Enrique says he wants to see Fulton versus Angelo Leo the rematch. I want to see it too, and I know Angelo want to see it. I know Fulton says he wants it. We'll see when that time comes, but you know, yeah, I think he would. You know, why not? Look at his resume. Look at the guys he's fought. He's not a guy that's ever shied away from top competition. So PBC is not working with Top Rank for a featherweight fight. I'm under the impression that PBC doesn't care about Stephen Fulton. They had him on the prelims fighting below Rolly. I don't think he's a big priority for them. And one thing we've seen with PBC fighters is if you're not a priority to them anymore, they have no problem actually sending you over to another network. And I think if let's just say the WBA orders a final eliminator between Stephen Fulton and Bruce Carrington, which I think is actually the right thing to do, I would actually see them allowing that fight to happen. So we'll see. Alex says, "Let it go, brother. Let what go, brother? Let what go? Be specific. Don't tell me to let shit go and then be like, oh, no, be specific. Be a man of specifics. What you mean let it go? What if Fulton beats Leo again? He's not getting in a fight. Listen, that's not happening. You know, if it happens, if it was to happen, obviously we know the consequences of it. But I'll tell you right now, ain't none of these guys. I really believe in my heart of hearts, and you. I know you guys will always take this as BT, he's your friend, and you're being biased. Keep thinking that all you want, but I'm telling you right now, just so long as Angelo keeps doing what he's doing in the gym and continues to get better, and that love for the sport stays on fire like it's been for his whole career, and he continues to add things to his game, I really don't see anybody currently at 126 that is going to beat him. There's some good fighters. There's some guys I'll give a chance, but he's a completely different fighter at 126. And I think you guys like to hold the Stephen Fulton loss over his head. You guys don't really fully understand what you're watching, but you know you will in time. Fulton versus Mauricio Lara, that's a good fight. Figueroa versus Inoue at the StubHub, that's not happening. I don't think they would do it there, to be honest. BT, I know. I now understand why you never liked Danny Garcia. I thought Danny Garcia was good because of the money he has. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't like. I used to dislike Danny Garcia a lot because one of my good friends in Florida, my boy Paul, he's a Danny Garcia fanboy, and he used to exaggerate how good he was. But like, other than that, I'm indifferent towards him. I don't hate him. I don't love him. Like he's there. I watch him fight. I enjoy his fights. God bless him. BT, do you like that PBC Pro Box relationship? The October 26th has Tony Harrison and Chris Colbert on the card. Yeah, I love it. Pro Box is giving these guys, these faded fighters, an opportunity to revive their careers and get momentum and fight. So I'm all for that. I'm all for fighters getting a chance to make a living for themselves and do what they love. And Pro Box is getting the opportunity. And PBC doesn't have a lot of dates that Amazon's giving him. So look, I think it's smart. It's good business. They're outsourcing their fighters to Pro Box to make up for the lack of dates they have from Amazon Prime. So that's the right thing to do, because we've been hearing about for the longest time. Wait for that second network. Wait for the PBC rollout, and it's literally about to be. We're in the middle of September, and we still don't have that second network. We still haven't had that big time, massive rollout we've been promising and hearing about. So it is what it is. I'm happy for them. I'm happy for Chris Cobra. I'm happy for Tony Harrison. Fulton, and so 93 Octane says Fulton was an overachieving, low IQ fighter, brawling it out with Leo and Figueroa with his back on the ropes when he's feather fisted. PBC gave him a gift on Saturday. Well, I'm gonna disagree with you on that one. I'll agree with you. Maybe you could say he was an overachieving fighter because obviously, like, his amateur, like, he was never the amateur talent coming into the pros that like certain fighters were. So I'll agree with you on the overachieving part, but I'm not gonna agree with you on the low IQ part. You can't beat the guy. You can't have his resume and beat the guys he's beat and then say he's a low IQ fighter. Can you say he's not a big puncher? Yes. Can you say sometimes maybe his defense can get leaky because he stays in the pocket too long? Yes. But to call the man a low IQ fighter when he's accomplished so much in his career, it's disrespectful, and I'm not gonna stand for that. I'm not gonna agree with that. As far as him getting a gift, I mean, I could see, like, I don't think Castro won. I think the scorecards were accurate, but I would have been okay with a draw, Even if they would have given it to Castro by a point, I would have been okay with that because, depends on like what the judges were looking at. I thought the scorecards were actually pretty accurate, and normally I'm not like I'll be the first person to say, oh, it was a robbery if I thought it was robbery or if there was some injustice, but I don't think this is one of them times. Jesus M, shout out to him. He says, BT, what is next for Ricardo Salas after a big win? He was the star of the night. Yeah, he got overshadowed and everything because he fought so early in the prelims. But I'll tell you this, that was the one fight on the card that genuinely shocked me. Because I'll be honest, I posted a little short of Salas and Romain Villa when they faced off, but I really didn't look into that fight. I didn't pay it. It was the one fight on the card I actually overlooked. And funny enough, the one fight I overlooked was actually the fight that gave us the biggest upset. Salas was Mexican welterweight. He was Mexican welterweight coming into the fight. He was 19-2-2, had lost to some pretty nondescript opposition out there in Mexico, and he knocks the hell out of Romain Villa. He makes Jaron Ennis's win against Romain Villa look like absolute garbage because he just treated him like a piece of trash in 3 rounds. So good for him. Good for Ricardo Salas. I think it's good for the welterweight division to have a Mexican contender now in the division entering the fold. Because when you look at the fight, Romain Villa was number 9 in the WBC coming in. I would assume once the rankings update, you could expect Ricardo Salas' name to enter the top 15 of the WBC since he beat a guy who was in the top 10. And good for him, big puncher. It was such a big punch that he landed too, that like literally his momentum. Ricardo Salas' momentum was carrying forward, and it actually bought Villa a couple of seconds, and Villa still couldn't get up. So good for him. As far as what could be next for Ricardo Salas, when I look at the rankings at 115, or not 147, I should say, the only guy I could see him fighting from PBC is maybe Jamal James. Jamal James is the number 6 contender. I think Ricardo Salas versus Jamal James would be a good fight. So maybe something like that. Like, if I'm being realistic, I can name you names, but I don't think Ricardo Salas is gonna fight Giashov or Jin Sasaki or Rocho or Santiago. I think he'll fight someone that's in the PBC fold, like Jamal James, who's also ranked number 6. So something like that. You hyping up Plant? Edgar puts him in the bed worse than Canelo. I'm not hyping up Plant. Plant's a better fighter than him. There's nothing to hype up. Caleb Plant he was a legitimate IBF super middleweight champion with multiple world title defenses, who is a better boxer than Edgar Berlanga, more athletic than Edgar Berlanga, can fight on the inside better than Edgar Berlanga. I mean, he just does so much better than Edgar Berlanga. Edgar Berlanga, all them shots you guys think Edgar will land on Caleb Plant, they're not going to be there because he's not smart enough. He doesn't have the IQ, the experience to even get in position to land those punches yet. My man Jay Tonic says, Folston has the skills but fights too low and his stance is too wide. But Bozian's corner work is questionable. I think I see what Bozie's trying to do with him, like, because he's at 26, so you got to get these guys respect, and they're trying to take the fight to these guys. Now, luckily for him, he got hurt by Carlos Castro and not like a Brandon Figueroa or Angelo Leo. I'll tell you this: at 26, you let one of them guys hurt Stephen Fulton. I don't think he's getting out the damn fight, to be honest with you, because he's not gonna be as strong or as quick as he was at 22. So I'm gonna wait and see it for him. I don't think it was a terrible performance like everybody says. I think it was. I give it like a C plus. Not the best, not the worst. Just slightly above average at best. But he won. He on a bad night he won against a good fighter, a contender. He needs to work on some things. I agree with my man Afro Jam, and he says Fulton needs to improve his back foot game, and he needs to maintain defense. I agree with all that. Yeah, all that for sure. I want to see Stephen Fulton get back to the guy that he was when he fought, Avalar and those kind of guys. That's his best bet. Using more of his athleticism, because Stephen Fulton is a good athlete. He's quick. He can move. He just needs to go ahead and use all of his the gifts God gave him. Hyro says, you say Munguia sucks. Man, he did better than Berlanga. Munguia didn't fight isn't in the fight. A Munguia fight is no soft touch. Yeah. I still maintain what I said. Munguia does still suck, but so does a lot of the rest of the 168 division. Really and truthfully, that's I would like to see Edgar fight him. That'd be a good fight. Are you gonna go live for Munguia on Friday? Everyone knows you get them views when Munguia. That is true. I may talk a lot of shit behind Munguia, but one thing he does do when I go live for him, he's probably like one of the top 5 fighters that gets me views when I go live. Believe it or not, like Munguia, Anthony Joshua, Inoue, Teofimo Lopez. Like those are like the 4 that really give me views when I go live. Oh yeah, I do want to go live for Munguia. So that fight's Friday, and then Anthony Joshua fights Dubois on Saturday. So my intent is to go live for both those fights. Have a good time doing it. Bozy got them boys trying to slug it out, Philly style, which is no bueno for a long career. No, it's not. It's not. But we'll see how it goes. Former unified champion with a C plus performance. Think about how that sounds. Yeah, it sounds like the ebbs and flows of a boxing career. Unified champions and pound for pound caliber guys have C plus performances all the time. Terrence Crawford had a C plus performance. I thought he didn't get dropped like Fulton did against Castro, but I don't think his performance was much better than Stephen Fulton. To be honest with you, he didn't light the world on fire against Madrimov. Top fighters have C plus performances all the time. BT, are you still mad about Philip Hergovich? No, I was just talking shit to you. I'm gonna call you soon, actually. You see what else we got here. Everyone's saying Danny Garcia done at ref career is done. The ref asked him to get up, but he said, "Yeah, I mean, look, Danny Garcia, he's done very well for himself with his money with boxing. Like he put his money in the right places. He's got multiple properties, owns Dunkin' Donuts in South Florida and stuff like that. He's good. He don't need boxing no more. And I think he fought like it. Cool Boy Steph is a really good fighter. He's simply profoundly unlucky that he's forced to practice his craft in the age of Inoue. Yeah, I mean, look, it is what it is, man. I mean, his only loss is to Naya Inoue, and he's beaten a lot of really good fighters in his career. So I mean, I'm not going down Stephen Fulton. He's, to me, like people like I've been on YouTube for all these years. and I've seen some of these channels dick ride fighters that haven't accomplished a fraction of what he have, like Shakur and Devin, and yeah, these guys have been undisputed and have won titles in multiple weight classes. But I'm saying like these guys don't got the resume that Stephen Fulton got. They ain't fought the competition Stephen Fulton fought. They ain't put on the type of like exciting fight Stephen Fulton's put on, and they get all the credit in the world. So like I'm not down on him. I still think he's a great addition to the featherweight division, and I don't care if he fights Nick Ball next or anybody in the top 5. I think whether it's against Nick Ball or anybody in the top 5, it's good fights out there for him. Barrios versus Ramos. I wouldn't be surprised if Barrios lost. His defense is terrible, and he turned down a Boots fight. Yeah, and Bob Santos came on here and he pretty much told you guys that like, look, we're not fighting that dude unless it's for $100 million. I don't really have any thoughts on that fight. If I'm being honest with you, I don't have any thoughts on that fight. The only thing I will say about Barrios versus Ramos is I don't know what Mario Barrios did in another life or another dimension, but like this is gonna be Mario Barrios' I think 6th or 7th consecutive fight on a pay-per-view card. So Mario Barrios is pay-per-view, whether we like it or not, and I can't understand it for the life of me because I know he don't got a fan base like that, Crawford and Canelo both, they say they're both the same. They hold it out for checks, but eventually, eventually they're gonna clash. It's inevitable. They need each other. Canelo not letting that paycheck go. I agree. I agree with that, and I think 2025 that happens. It's crazy how I've seen more Fulton fans from Japan compared to the. Yeah, that's how it is. I mean, he's loved out there. He's absolutely beloved out there. You go to any of his tweets on Twitter, more than half the tweets are in Japanese. So I'll tell you this, it wouldn't be a bad idea to get Stephen Fulton to fight, one of the top contenders in Japan, because he's got a lot of fans out there. That's what I think they should do. I think PBC should let him go, and he should probably go try to align himself in a scenario where he can go fight in Japan as much as possible, Danny Garcia had one fight in 4 years. PBC inactivity diet. Let's see how Earl does in this comeback. Another C+. Probably. I mean, Earl got a life-changing beatdown against Terrence Crawford. And Earl, in my opinion, is no different than Danny Garcia. He's a guy that has financially secured himself in boxing, has property, has nice houses and things like that. The hunger is not there and hasn't been there for quite some time. So I think, I wouldn't surprise me if he had a C+ performance. Straight up. But shout out to all 26 you guys still rocking with me. Rocking with your boy BT and the Untouchable True School Sports Empire. It's my first live as an 80K subscriber channel, so that's pretty cool. Right now we're like at an hour and 17 minutes, so I'm gonna make it an even hour and a half, and then I'll dip out of here. So these next 12, 13 minutes, get your questions and get your questions in. Like it could be boxing related. Hell, it could be another non-boxing related. At this point, it's 10:39 at night. Let the questions rain down. The smaller weight classes, the majority of the fans are Japanese, Filipino, or Mexicano. Because the weight classes down there are dominated by those guys. Justin Todd says, love the channel. Can't be mad at Crawford for maximizing his earning potential. Plus, his love for the sport is more than likely going away. It ain't really much left for him to accomplish but that bag. I don't think he will get up for anyone else. And yeah, that's it. You're probably right, because think about it. I love Top Rank. I'm a fan of I'm friends with and I'm cool with a lot of people that work for Top Rank. But if I'm being honest, Top Rank is still a business because they don't lose money on fights. They don't really overpay for fighters, and they have a reputation sometimes at times being cheap, right? So Terrence Crawford, for the most of his time, while he got paid some good money from Top Rank, he didn't get paid what he got paid to fight Earl Spence with all that pay-per-view upside. So he got a taste of that, and I'm pretty sure he's secure with his money and his legacy, and he want to cash out. He want to go ahead and get that real money, get that real guap. Hoops Combo says, "What's up, BC? What's good? I'm just chilling. Get my live in. It's been a very long day for me. I've been pumping out a lot of content. Made like 5 videos yesterday. Had to edit all those. So just a regular Monday. After this is done, I'm gonna go work out and go to the gym because I didn't go to the gym today, so I have to get my little workout in. But yeah, all is good in life of BT. Things are really starting to pick up here in Vegas. So yeah, life's good. God's good. Who would you favor in a Canelo Crawford fight? It's Canelo for sure. But it's not a fight that I would write off Canelo losing. Canelo can't stop. Like Canelo clearly is not knocking these guys out like he used to. But I favor him because I saw enough of the Madrigal fight to let me know that Crawford has lost a step. Like he's lost a bit of a step. You can't expect it to be doing what at 54 what he did at 47. And so to go to 68, it's like I'll say Canelo, but it'll be a good fight for boxing as far as like the attention it would draw. Raw Dog says the way PBC and LBC channels treated Bud prior to the Spence giving him the shot made Bud eager to secure a bag and really think about life. Yeah, for sure, because this sport is cold, man. Like it really is cold. People don't really like to give fighters credit when they win. I done seen it. I done seen it here with Angelo. I mean, I know people were saying Angelo had no chance against Venado and knocked him out. Now they're saying he can't be this guy. Now they say he can't be that guy. So there's always another guy to fight. It's how the game is. And if you've secured your legacy as far as accomplishments and your financially well off, if you can get that one last big payday, go ahead and get it and get out because it's a cruel, cold-blooded game. Do you ever bet at the sports book since you live in Vegas? I bet here and there. I'm not like a big better, but here and there I do, like very occasionally. I try not to bet because I have an addictive personality, so anything that I get interested in, I'll become addicted to it. So I know that about myself. I'm self-aware, and so that I already know that if I start betting enough, I'll become addicted to it. And really and truthfully, like I think too, for me, it would interfere with my love of the sport. I want to keep my love for boxing as pure as possible. So that's one of the reasons I don't do it. But yeah, occasionally, like very, very, maybe like once or twice a year. BT is getting hit up by the streetwalkers. I've seen some shit. I've seen some stuff since I've been in Vegas. It's definitely a place that has a lot of characters. I'll leave it at that. Man, if I would have found your channel before the Leo fight, I would have put the house on it. Yeah, man, it's a lot of people. I know one guy in New Mexico who made 17 grand bet on Angelo. So yeah, a lot of people robbed the bank that night. 93 Octane says Top Rank knows how to cultivate and develop young talent with the best matchmaking in the business. Not to mention they always secure major network TV deals. They do, and that's why they're still in business. What else? Do you think the Marlins will trade Sandy Alcantara this offseason? I'm so disconnected with the Marlins. I mean, I still follow them from afar, but like, they're such a disgrace. They've been saying that that's the one guy they're not going to trade. He's actually the one guy I think they should trade because he got Tommy John surgery. I don't think he's going to be the same guy once he comes back. So I'll let them to trade him while his value is still somewhat high before he puts up some bad season. But it's the Marlins, so yeah, I would say yeah. Why not? Yeah, I didn't think Leo was going to pull it off, but that's the beauty. Yeah, a lot of people didn't. So, that's why they fight the fights. Is there anybody who has seen William School fight? I have yet to meet anybody who has. Apparently, he's so great that the IB had to shoot Canelo to get him a title shot. Honestly, like you guys know, I like to watch random. I still haven't watched the William School fight. I could tell you the first thing about William School, but he's fighting Vladimir Shishkin, and I guess that'll be one of the first times I watch him. Canelo Alvarez vacated because Canelo Alvarez ducked William School. he didn't want no smoke with William School. Nah, but in all seriousness, William School is somebody that nobody knows anything about. Do you think Virgil Ortiz honestly wants to fight Crawford? Because I don't think so. I think he wants to fight Crawford, but I don't think Robert Garcia. One thing about Robert Garcia is he's great at picking fights. Because you guys got to remember, Robert Garcia manages a lot of these fighters that he trains. I don't. He doesn't manage Virgil, but I'm sure that he has a say so in the fights because he's really good at picking components. That's not a fight they're gonna take unless they have to. You know. Hiram wants to know, why don't you like Albert Bell? It's not that I don't like Albert Bell. I mean, I don't think he's a bad guy, and he's a good fighter. But like, I just don't. I don't know. I just don't really care for Albert Bell like that. You know. And apparently neither does Top Rank because they can't get him a title shot. So that's really why I'm coming with Albert Bell. But you know, I don't wish bad on him. I hope he does well. I'm just not. I'm not in love with Albert Bell like you are. Flatbush wants to know, can we get Tio versus Tank? I mean, I wish I could say yes. I don't think so though. I think Tank's gonna continue to fight the kind of caliber opposition he's been fighting, and Tio, I don't know what happens with Tio, but I know he's not. I know we're not getting that fight next. 93 Octane says the president of the WBO has publicly stated that Virgil has previously declined Bud's title shot not once but twice. Yeah, again, I I don't think he has the full say so in that. I think that's not him. I think that's Rick Marigan. Because Rick Marigan, his manager, is also the same guy that manages Jose Ramirez. And Jose Ramirez has ducked so many fighters at 140, avoided so many fighters at 140 in recent years. So I think the same practices they put in place for Jose Ramirez, they put in practice for Virgil Ortiz. And by the way, Virgil Ortiz 3 years ago came here to Vegas for the Josh Taylor Jose Ramirez fight because Jose Ramirez is one of his role models. So, you know, now he's starting to move like Jose Ramirez. Who gives Tank the most problems in your opinion? Shakur. Just because of like Shakur's got great balance, knows range so well. I think Shakur can outbox Tank, but I also think Tank could stop Shakur. It's a great fight. I wish it would happen. Albert Bell doesn't even fight on TV or no apps anymore. No, he doesn't. He doesn't even fight like on a pro box or anything like that. Like you don't really see or hear much about him. Prediction. I think Tio will get. Yeah, I think Tio will get probably knocked out by Tank. To be honest, I like Tio. I root for him because even though he doesn't like to embrace the South Floridian in him, and he likes to act like he's not from South Florida. I still got love for him because he is from South Florida. No matter how many times he says from New York. I just think Tio hasn't really improved in my opinion as a fighter, and Gervonta Davis I think is a superior fighter, not just in terms of boxing IQ, but in terms of punching power. But I'd love to see it. Robert Garcia's stable is getting bigger, and he just bought a bigger building, and that equals more fighters. Yeah, no, Robert's a fantastic trainer. I think, but I'll be honest, I think he's a better manager than he's a trainer. I think he's better at picking fights than he is even at training. Just being honest, but yeah, it's a good stable, hell of a stable. Albert Bell has been on Overtime Boxing and Fight TV. Albert Bell is fighting next October 26 on Pro Box TV. Okay, so there you go, Hiram. So I guess we got to go ahead and rev up the Albert Bell coverage because you keep talking that Albert Bell stuff. So you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and make an Albert Bell video soon. Just because like you keep mentioning him. My man said, what's that one comment at? He said, I hate talking on race, but why do new school Hispanic fighters feel the need to act crazy to sell fights? It's cringeworthy. I don't think it's a Hispanic thing, a black thing, a white thing, or anything thing. Like I just think we live in an age now where there's a lot of pressure put on fighters to garner attention, and the best way to garner attention is to talk a lot of shit on social media. Because let's face it, there's many fighters in boxing that they weren't talking shit and they were just and they were just letting their hands do the talking. Nobody will pay attention because the reality is most fighters in boxing are not good enough to just let their hands do the talking and get a fan base. That's actually the one thing I can say about my boy Angelo is like Angelo Leo, like he don't really talk a whole lot like that, and he's starting to develop a little bit of a fan base now. So good for him. Like BT, are you gonna go live for that Don King card with Ryan Rozicki and Noel McCallion? Maybe Ian Green's on the undercard. Ian Green is definitely not on the undercard because Ian Green called me about 1 week ago, so I know for a fact he's on the undercard. And Ryan Rozicki versus Noel McCallion isn't happening because Noel McCallion has pulled out of the fight again. So now it's getting to the point where it's like, yo, Noel McCallion, I'm starting to think you ducking Ryan Rozicki. You are ducking Jack Dempsey Jr. You know, I'm pissed off about that because that was a fight that I was looking very, very forward to. You know, Ryan Rozicki is a guy that I want to see fight for the world title. He's very exciting. I think he's good for boxing, and they're not fighting because Noel McCallion. And the crazy thing is, I was there. It was one of the last like boxing events I went to in South Florida before I moved to Vegas. I was there for the press conference for Adrian Broner, Blair Cobbs, and they were supposed to fight on that card. And Noel McCallion, he walked into the room with a real smug look, and he said this fight's going to be a little warm-up fight for me, and he's pulled out of the fight not once but twice. So I'll be honest with you, a big part of me believes that when they had that stare down, because it was a long drawn out stare down. It was the longest stare down I've ever seen between two fighters in person. I think Ryan Rozicki had him a little shook, honestly, because I don't think he was as I know you can't prove these things, but like he showed up to the Blair Cobbs. He showed up to the Blair Cobbs Adrian Broner fight. He didn't look injured. He didn't look like he was going through anything. Like, I'm not buying it. The Nobody 2 says, how is Abel Mendoza 41-0 and hasn't fought anybody? And I see he's 28 years old. He needs a big fight ASAP. So I first learned who Abel Mendoza was like a month ago because I was in camp with Angelo out there in Santa Fe, and I was just, researching all kinds of boxing one day, and I found out who he was. And, I think Abel Mendoza is a microcosm of this shitty business of boxing. Like, one thing that boxing fans don't understand about boxing and fighters is that it costs money to build a fighter. Like it costs money to get good opponents. It costs money to build a guy as a prospect. And more oftentimes than not, when you're building a fighter, you're going to lose money up front, right? And so if a fighter doesn't have a manager who's bankrolling him, who's paying money for these opponents and these fights, a lot of fighters have 9-to-5 jobs. They're doing whatever they can to make ends meet and still build their career, right? So I say that to say that Abel Mendoza probably is just taking whatever he can get, and he's fighting these shit fighters because he probably can't afford to get good opponents. He doesn't, and I know from talking to him, he doesn't have a manager. He doesn't have representation. He doesn't have somebody bankrolling him all this money so that he can, get good opponents and be on these big cards. So that's a part of the game that I wish fans could see more of, because it's not as simple as this guy is ducking that guy, this guy's ducking that guy. Ducking does happen. Fighters do avoid fights, but there are some fighters. There is a whole big, massive pool of fighters in boxing that just don't have the investment. I think he's one of those guys that doesn't have the investment, but I also think that he's also one of these guys that I think he does want to fight. I don't know how good he is. I mean, I've seen some clips from here and there. I don't think he's a world-class talent, but we don't know until he fights another world-class talent. So let him get that opportunity and see what happens. BT, that UFC event, amazing visuals. They were fire. Yeah, I've seen some pictures and videos of that. Like, and I'm not surprised because, like I said, I went to the Sphere back in July. Was it July? No, June. I went to the Sphere back in June when they had the NHL draft, because as many of you guys know, I'm a massive hockey fan. More specifically, I'm a massive fan of the Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, right? So I actually bought a ticket and I went to day 2 of the NHL draft, and it was in the middle of the afternoon, and it was at the Sphere, and I was absolutely blown away with the presentation, the projector, the screen, the graphics they use, the seating, just everything about the Sphere was off the chain. Love it, and I can't wait for the day that one of these boxing promoters put a big fight there. What are my thoughts of Rohan Polanco? He's a good fighter, Dominican Olympian. I think he fights at what? I forgot the weight class he fights at, but he's a good, strong, sturdy fighter. Good amateur experience, can box. Looking forward to seeing how his career develops. I'm South African. It's just observation. It started with the Rolly, then Tio, now Ryan. The common denominator is Crawford. The strange part is they are not. Oh no. Yeah, they all want to fight Crawford. It's weird. But that's boxing now. Like boxing's made a pattern to make fights in weight classes that guys don't compete in. Rozicki versus Rivas was an all-action fight. It has crazy replay value. Yeah, and that was actually the fight that really introduced me to Ryan Rozicki. My boy Hyro, who's in the comments, he's a big Ryan Rozicki fan, and he was talking about Ryan Rozicki even before that fight. But he to me like pound like if I made a pound list of the most entertaining fighters in boxing, Ryan Rozicki would be like top 5 easily. Every fight of his delivers on the entertainment, So I'm pissed that he's not fighting for the title again because Noel McCallion keeps pulling out over and over and over again. The UFC lost money because they don't have a good undercard, and the main event was underwhelming. The promotion of the fight was that it was in the sphere. O'Malley can't sell. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you this: from being here in Vegas, the buzz for Canelo fight week was much bigger than UFC. It dwarfed it. UFC didn't have a Mexican fighter in the main event on Mexican Independence Day. Come on, man. And you going up against Canelo? Come on, man. Do better. But guys, look, on that note, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna end the live. We're at over an hour and a half, so I just want to say it was great live. I got my talking points off. I said what I needed to say. It was good talking to you guys. Thank you guys so much. 80,000 subscribers on the channel. Really grateful for that. It's funny because Angelo Leo always tells me, you're gonna be at 100,000 subscribers before this year's over, BT. And I keep telling him, like, I don't think so, and I still don't think so. But man, I'll tell you this: we're moving at a pretty good pace, and I'm shooting to get to that 100K before my birthday. So I would love to see that happen. But look, you guys take care. I'm gonna try to come back live tomorrow. I want to interview somebody tomorrow, but I gotta see if they're available. So if I don't come back live tomorrow, I'll definitely be back. I'll definitely be back live Wednesday night. So just keep it locked. Make sure you guys definitely keep it locked and definitely keep supporting the channel. There's a lot of great content on the way, and yeah, like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Daniel. So until next time, take care, guys. Hold on, last question. Before you go, do you think Angelo would be thinking about getting the Fort rematch now? No, he'd have to get because Fulton isn't ranked in the IBF top 15, and Angelo's more than likely going to fight a mandatory next, which is Tomoki Kameda, and then probably unification. And Fulton's not even trying to go that route because he can't go the route because he's not ranked. So the scenario they're going to fight in is unification. So, but I know he wants to fight because we talked about it a lot. But look, I'm gonna get out of here. Take care, guys, and I'll see you on the next live.